This guy just got back from military service. His girlfriend's been waiting all this time to finally see him. But yeah, this dude's got his priorities straight. He barely even glances at her and just runs right past, straight to his room. Because waiting for him there is his fresh new gaming capsule. Before he entered the army, he was the #1 hardcore player in an extraordinarily challenging game. One that eventually got shut down. But now, a new similar game recently debuted, and he really can't wait to check it out. Entering the game world, a character creation stage is set. So he instantly fashions himself a badass mid-part hairdo and registers his name as Kaiser. Next, he's moved into the apocalyptic battlefield as the tutorial stage. The VR graphics are spectacular, but first, a weapon is needed. Kaiser chooses a weapon and meets Charlie, the night captain, who takes the mercenary to confront the combat. The situation is dire, and Charlie thinks that the biggest tragedy would come if they don't stop the monsters. At once they're met by arrows and warrior creatures, but before the knight can complete his sentence, Kaiser jumps right in and demolishes every single thing in sight. Even as a rookie in this game, he's styling on these hyena-faced fuckers to send them back to the bush. All this time, he was scared his talents must have diminished, yet he only felt lighter on his feet. The knight captain glazes him, opening the favorability system in the game just like in the prior. The captain trusts him so deeply that he won't even care if our son commits a crime at this point, awarding him a title called the Affection Max. Next up, they gotta destroy an evil sorcerer inside the gate, when suddenly, additional monsters crawl up inside the castle. Charlie plans to hold the line and orders the hero to stop the summoner, entrusting the future to our boy. Even Kaiser is startled that this knight is storming up to confront the rabble, when instead, he's supposed to aid you beat the boss. His behavior is intended to alter dependent on a user's actions, but what's waiting on the opposite side of this door is actually frightening, so much so that even the system warns him. Kaiser quickly realizes that this is a hidden element, a purposely concealed mechanism that requires abrupt conditions to be met. Despite the danger, he's thrilled to confront what's ahead, and so the door opens, but instead of a dark sorcerer, there's a giant beast awaiting before him. A beast imprisoned in chains, enticed in crimson red aura, the iron-blooded demonic dragon greets its next victim, while Kaiser is afraid, because he's going up against a renowned boss right at the outset. This new game borrowed some things from the previous demlock. One of such inspirations is the mechanism that forms the rating from normal, rare, heroic, and legendary, otherwise known as the tier system. The tier system also applies to every single boss monster on each level, and the spiciest ones of them are the unique creatures that actually have their own name allocated to them. And just like you folks are guessing, this bastard with a scary-looking face is actually one of those dragons, a properly titled boss. It concentrates a massive surge of force and roars out an insane pressure. This immense pressure stuns the player, compelling the system to let out numerous, various system screens, warning him of the dragon species kind, as well as the nerf of his own physical powers. Everything movement-related is decreased by 20 to 25%, and at this point, our kid is simply wondering what in the actual fuck the game creators were smoking when they put this monster in the game. The only positive thing about this gigantic lizard is that it's a restrained boss monster. Even then, getting hit by a single attack from its paw means an instant trip to the Shadow Realm. Kaiser had already faced conditions like these in Demlock. His foes were fearsome boss monsters, leaving him with only one decision at hand, the choice to kill or be slain. The badass gamer pulls out his sword and dodges the first hit, an attack that destroys the earth. He evades to his right before lunging back into the combat with a wide slash, dealing the dragon with some type of harm. A second roar forces the beast to shock him again. Kaiser sees that he's about to get stomped, so he counters the paw with another sword slice, only to get deflected many feet back from the blow. He takes a second to examine how much harm he's caused, and out of 1,000,000 life points, this man has only taken away 120. In other words, he needs to lock on or he'll wind up on a plate. It's the worst conceivable difficulty, considering the instructional boss to begin with. Kaiser slashes the dragon once more, while remembering the wild comments he read on the forum about this dragon. Apparently not even the best players in this game able to beat the creature, but our guy is so far style on it with these slashes. More and more comments rush into his memory, while he swings his sword to deflect and strike the dragon down each time. Interestingly, the commentators also took notice of how the demonic dragon species name was revealed. Most players felt it was some type of bug, others couldn't grasp it at all. You see, someone had finally just defeated the tutorial boss monster for the first time. Impaling the dragon's claw, he agonizes the beast with consecutive slashes. Kaiser literally goes Levi Ackerman Beyblade style on his ass and starts hacking the beast all over its body. And surely enough, the dragon is killed, naming him the first person to ever defeat a legendary enemy in the tutorial. He'll earn a reward for it shortly. But for now, Kaiser is out here panting and absolutely tired, irritated over how stubborn this darn employer was. Extracting his blade, he focuses on the detail that he's the first player to fight the boss, even moving further ahead than some of his own old pals. Even they assumed that the beast was unbeatable in the tutorial phase after all. But for now, Kaiser is curious how his friends are holding up in the meantime. As per his reward, he obtains the title of the First Slayer and unlocks many attributes for his gaming. The first of which is the Weapon Master, the second is Secret Dragon, the third is Slayer, the fourth Hero, fifth Vanquish. All of their prerequisites have been met, unlocking an even more powerful characteristic called the Eye of Truth. And simply from the first impression, Kaiser is amazed that he got so many of them in only a single fight. After all, in the average tutorial, only one characteristic is granted every player. Let's talk about qualities for a second. They're one of the special systems in this game, varying from different categories like Guide and Swordmaster. Some of the higher level ones are only given based on performance. Currently, Kaiser's stats have practically doubled. His sword effects have also enhanced, alongside a bunch of other delicious upgrades. He looks down the exceptional trait, allowing him to see through objects that are typically hidden. It's a hazy impact. And yeah, while Weapon Master and Hero Slayer are wonderful attributes by themselves, but they're not remarkable. There will always be a few folks out there in the player base that are going to possess such attributes. But when it comes to a unique skill like the Eye of Truth, this object is one of a kind. In other words, a man has hit the lottery with this draw. He earned a variety of different rewards and accomplished a tremendous feat. Even the title he obtained enables him unique effects to deal 10% more damage to boss creatures. Right now, bro feels like he's enjoying the rich life, especially when he usually had the crappiest luck in the previous game. Just like me, every time I open a case in Counter-Strike. Anyway, he eyeballs the door opening up. It's actually Captain Charlie looking bloody and injured. The man is shocked to find the player, and wonders if Kaiser actually managed to defeat the monsters on his own. The captain is unable to grasp how this person isn't even seriously injured, making him doubt what kind of god-tier player he even is. He chooses not to pursue his interest in Kaiser's background, and relates how heroes are generally created in the times of extreme turmoil. Therefore, this man's simple presence is a symbol of hope in the world. This silly game speech is boring our youngster to death, while this man gets on his knees to beseech to the hero to allow him a chance to become his sword. Even the system explains that his intent is in reality true, and he will become Kaiser's servant because of it. Our kid is stupefied at the offer. Then again, Charlie has already died in the version of the game, so there won't be any particular perks. The lesson expressly underlined that this event will take place in the past, and thinking that it's simply a stupid formality, Kaiser tells the captain to do anything he wants. His statements are perceived as an acceptance, allowing him the captain's backing. The man will now fall sleeping quietly, hoping for a better future beside the hero. Kaiser takes attention of their statements, while the system ushers that he'll soon return to the Pantheon. A huge portal appears just behind him. It's time to exit the tutorial level. But before he leaves, the knight reaches out to his master and begs for their next destination. Thinking about it for a while, Kaiser says that they'll be traveling wherever they're needed, because this planet is a disaster. The knight is delighted with this response, acting like bro just recited Socrates or some shit. Anyway, the warping process began with a 5-second timer. The captain tosses him an artifact as the countdown ends up, and in his final words, Charlie smiles and thanks his liege, praying for rescue. Kaiser is immediately reverted back to the Pantheon following this procedure, inviting him to a location where a player picks a deity and launches a road forward for their blessings. He admires the famed Pantheon construction, but more generally, it can be regarded your normal gacha room. This same spot is responsible for making various players weep and laugh, depending on their luck, because the god of gacha determines their luck. Since a player can only serve a single god, their path is selected appropriately. Gods themselves have their own tiers: tale, hero, and mythic. Fable gods are beings who became gods through tales circulated around the ancient ages. Hero gods are those who contributed to the well-being of humanity, forming their ascent. Finally, there are mythological gods, the ones that are responsible for entire myths, such as Zeus or Odin, from each of their separate mythologies. As expected, myth gods are likewise the highest tier. Each floating card in this realm holds a different deity, therefore the mechanism allows him to pick one. Knowing that our boy's luck is pretty dogshit, he doesn't really care much, but what amazes him the most is a blazing golden card amid the rest. Activating his Eye of Truth, Kaiser suddenly understands that he can utilize this power to see what's underneath any card. This is where this skill becomes truly broken, because he'll genuinely know what gachapon is the greatest and simply exploit that one to his advantage. The same comrades who informed him that he had the shittiest luck, they got under his feelings, since it always made this man feel depressed. But now, things have changed. He can officially become a formidable rancor. Kaiser can't even contain his delight and looks goofy as hell because bro knows he's already won. From now on, he vows that he'll solely target the golden cards for his own gain. He takes the first card, blazing with golden shimmer, having drawn the one-armed sword deity Tyr. It's a legendary pull, so that's the exciting aspect. But at the same time, the system truly lets out a bizarre message. Apparently, Kaiser doesn't qualify to become Tyr's apostle yet, so he's pushed to draw a card one more time. Bro is in tears, inquiring why the heck he can't become an apostle in the first place. Even the myth deity is stunned by this news. This is a strange occurrence. He's never heard of a player experiencing anything familiar. The word vessel sticks to his memory, because normally, every time a user is slaughtered by the Demon Lord's progeny, the goddess offers a revelation to them. The only problem is, Bro ended up killing the spawn, so the goddess never even arrived. Long story short, Bro is suffering from success because he killed the tutorial boss, hence never obtaining the goddess's blessing. Kaiser analyzes his system stats, and he doesn't find anything. The apostle section is completely missing, just marking him as a mere explorer. This makes things tough for him, making him deliberate about his next action. Bro practically grabbed an Egyptian god card from Yu-Gi-Oh!, but now he can't even summon it. Every single card is going to say the same, causing him to tumble down to his knees, a victim of his lousy luck once more. Our youngster doesn't comprehend what his next move should be, because even if he deletes this character and resumes the game, it'll take a waiting period of 2 months. But then it happens. His eye glances to his right, spotting an odd card, one that is flashing with boiling crimson energy. This card is unique in its essence, as he hasn't ever heard of it before. After selecting the hidden card, he draws the forgotten last adventurer, Cassiar, meeting the conditions to become this man's apostle. Kaiser's world glows red, because he knows that this circumstance is unusual. It's a hidden piece no one knows about. After verifying, the system adds his class as the last adventurer to his stat sheet, granting him support from humanity's final warrior. Scourging red energy spirals into his body, unlocking a unique ability to use talents independent of any class constraints, which is just insanely overpowered. Even setting away class distinctions, our lad can now spam anything from any class, so he can snatch all the relevant talents he needs to develop a specialized skill tree. He can even deduce the kinds of skills he will obtain, and combining them with the Weapon Master characteristic will only make him more overpowered. Thanks to this man will become a powerful master, the jack of all crafts with no flaws remaining. With the progression procedure completed, the machine aims to transport him to Avertal in 5 seconds. Kaiser is excited and finally has a reason to actively try in a game. He smiles as his future as a rancor has suddenly rekindled once more. In Avertal, we come at the City of Beginnings, Artie. The players are pouting for pulling a crappy gacha, but some of the others are fine, because fighting classes aren't the only thing in this game. The environment is packed with numerous players, but amid these people, there are also the scouters, the males wearing those gorgeous outfits. They're truly looking for talented members for their own guilds, but in actuality, they're considered very obnoxious. One of the scouts is furious and wants to achieve his quota of hiring members, or else his supervisor will kick his ass. But oddly, they locate a dude in the distance they could like. From a glance, they think the youngster has gone insane, and that there's no use in hiring him at all. While they're moving past him, our boy is actually enjoying a new item he just equipped, the Necklace of Blood and Covenant. It's a hero-grade item with multiple various alternatives to employ. Once again, this man feels like he's being showered in luck. The feeling is all too pleasant. A startling message pops up. It's a goblin cleanup task, the first mission he has to cope with as a player. But not just him, the rest are also commanded to defeat 40 goblins as a hunting quest. Everyone is pumped, as a mustache-wearing midget dubbed Hunter Dante leaves the job to the gamers to murder the goblins for him. Immediately, the first inclination of these players is to call out for members to create parties. Kaiser notes this aspect. In fact, one group actually ends up contacting him too, stating their intention to grind to level 12. There's an archer and a mage, and they seem very mellow from their looks. Typically, hunting is a lot easier when you're doing it as a party. Any additional bonus experience is also helpful, making the concept of partying in this game necessary. With that thinking, Kaiser agrees to join them, founding the Shield Best Party under the leader's name. One of the players asks whether he's a fan of Kaiser for using his name, the same guy who used to be rank number 1 in Demrock in the ancient days. They believe he's some kind of peak admirer of the ranker, for calling himself too, not understanding that our lad is actually the real deal. This is like asking Michael Jackson if he's Michael Jackson. Anyway, the party is eager to hurry up and grind to level 12. Even our kid is happy to accomplish as much. We spawn immediately into their mission, where Shield Best is slamming a goblin to stun the creature, and after the first successful hit, he tells everyone else to strike as well. The archer and the magician discharge each of their individual projectile bullets, zipping past their companion and killing the green goblin instantly. With the first creature downed, the others are quite afraid, yet nonetheless still manage to surge ahead like a bunch of idiots. They exert pressure on Shield Best's defense, while his allies are anxious about him suffering the hard strikes. The squad leader urges them to quickly attack the goblins while he's holding them off. Except there's one huge problem. They're both on cooldown mode. Since they're busy, our boy cuts into the action from above. At that exact moment, this man deals a wide swing, obliterating the goblin with a single hit. His mobility is so ridiculous that even the others are amazed. Kaiser sets his foot on the ground before exploding right back into the herd like a missile. He speed blitzes multiple goblins, killing them all at once as he receives the applause of his companions. Even the team leader had to pause for a moment and applaud him for his fantastic performance, believing that they'll be able to finish the mission rather fast. One tiny problem. Just up front, a large group of goblins has come. These little green-balled devils are snickering and waiting for a moment to attack, as the team leader tells them to fall back and retreat. Except our boy doesn't know what it implies, because he's eager to catch all the smoke, so he lunges in. The goblins are happy, assuming that they're receiving a free prey, while this man leaps on top, glaring at them like the incarnation of a devil. At first all seems tranquil, but then a physical explosion emerges from the debris of the conflict. This leads us back to a chat Kaiser had shared with his old friend, who questioned why he always ran into the hardest conflicts ever. Our boy didn't comprehend the notion of being reckless, but his pals said that he always dove first to face every boss fight or big monsters. The top ranker just reacted by saying he still defeated each threat, ignoring the danger of it all. Recklessness is a term unfamiliar to this man, because though it seems harmful to others, severing their will to take on the struggle with such risk, Kaiser is the opposite. You see, this man isn't in danger. He is the danger, and he's not going to sugarcoat himself to let you know that. He's always fought deliberately, knowing that in every encounter, he will win. The explosion just now occurred due to a skill named Smash that he employed. Kaiser strikes critical hits on green goblins, and not the Spider-Man kind. With only one threatening dark goblin left, Kaiser repels all the way back to target the primary threat, understanding that it's optimal to take out the ranged opponents first. In his dive, he slashes several armed warriors in the way. The black goblin shoots its poison projectile to try and slow him down. But this man promptly activates his Overcome trait to overcome his boundaries. This sharpens his senses, allowing this guy to deflect appropriately, shocking the goblin with his reflexes. And then he goes on to end its life in an instant, before approaching another one up front and dealing with that one as well. Kaiser blocks the strike and determinedly executes a magnificent slash, cutting the monster down. The effect of the Weapon Master trait activates, allowing him to utilize the talent called Exploit Weakness. Our boy is satisfied with his progress, taking the short dagger and hurling it straight in the goblin's eye, dealing a critical strike. The surrounding goblins are ganging up on him. One of them hits him with a bat. Kaiser smashes it away, enabling him access to use the weapon's special ability too. Taking the same bat, this man goes Asian parent mode on his opponents. First he chucks the dagger up the monster's throat, before whacking its face with a bat, reducing it to paste. The proficiency of his weapon increases in the process, blasting the level upward. So far things are going fairly well for them. He did desire to learn talents without any constraints, but he had no notion that he could also utilize them right into the conflict immediately. Despite being fatigued, he's also happy to reach this level. But although he's excited, many watching him are actually questioning their eyes. The team leader can't grasp how a single player managed to do what not even an experienced group could against a pack of goblins. This man is on another level for taking on a threat like that, and the moniker Kaiser is starting to make a lot more sense. Shield Best truly wonders if this gentleman is the same man from the old days, but he doesn't want to accept that ridiculous truth. After all, the same clever ranker ended up disappearing from the world for 2 solid years. It can't be that the same guy appeared at his party, right? That's what he thinks, but that begs the question. Who in the world is this man in the first place? Kaiser is currently looking like a yandere, bros hungry for his ranked future. Shield Best feels the guy is actually nuts at this point. Back to his senses, Kaiser sees the vanishing corpse and recognizes that both the dagger and the bat will fade because they're part of the adversary. Still, he managed to do a lot by surpassing weapon constraints, so he's satisfied. Popping open the status window, he checks his level and stats. From a single hunt, he increases by 3 stages, which is well enough. Even though he's got access to all weapons, Kaiser likes his sword and aims to spend his points on strength and agility. The other stats are safely covered with his item and trait boosts, so he's relaxed. In the middle of his celebration, his new pals come along to praise him for being so good at the game. Shieldbest blazes him as the genuine Kaiser, but the other people can't figure out a reason why the famed ranker would want to play this game again. Still, his skills are the greatest of the best, therefore it's not difficult for them to believe the truth. While they're squabbling, all Kaiser can comprehend is how he's the genuine Kaiser in the first place. Out of curiosity, they inquire whether he pulled some type of fabled deity for his damage, to which he respectfully responds by claiming that it's thanks to his qualities and titles. They're astonished to hear that he's received quite decent goods and wonder whether he plans to become a true ranker. A moment of silence develops between the group, with Shieldbest recommending they hunt some more with their stamina recharged. The other dudes are ready to rumble, and Kaiser doesn't mind either. In fact, his party has simply become more confident and dependent on his participation. But from their chats, all he could remember is his old party's words. They all wanted to let him manage the raid, but he remembers this encounter pleasantly and wonders what his old buddies are up to. Suddenly, an urgent task pops up in the form of a tiny boss monster quest. The team is anticipated to defeat the mutant goblin with a no-time restriction setting, taking Kaiser by surprise. The story then moves to the cave entrance, where the whole party is standing together. They have finally arrived to deal with the mutant goblin and accomplish the task. The archer and the mage keep grumbling about how anxious they are feeling right now, even though all of them had already pushed themselves hard and leveled up to 9 on their journey here without holding back. Our hero, however, realizes precisely where this worry is coming from, since the dungeon they are going to enter is highly infamous and generally known as the newbie slayer among players. Kaiser recalls reading the reviews, where people continued complaining and stressing about how to complete this dungeon without ending up dying over and again during every attempt. Moreover, it is practically guaranteed that someone is going to perish on their first try. Because of this, the dungeon has gained up a few nicknames, including Arda's Tomb, among the players. As the squad eventually gets inside, Kaiser continues thinking about the great difficulty of this place and how it demands extremely precise patterns of teamwork if someone wants to clear it effectively. As the squad advances deeper inside, they keep talking about how a place like this should be outlawed for good and deleted from the game. After hearing to all these negative comments, the leader, Shieldbest, tries to rally his team by reminding them that they have no choice but to overcome this dungeon if they want to earn a ticket to take part in higher-level raids. Just as how firms favor experienced interns over complete newbies, the guilds in this game follow the exact same philosophy, and because of that clearing, this dungeon becomes required if they want any real chance to join a proper guild or party. The game has even placed stringent protocols in place to make sure no one can cheat the system, and every player's whole progress is recorded in some bizarre book of adventures, which is why no one can simply lie about clearing the dungeon without actually completing it themselves. Kaiser understands that for now, he has to make sure he clears this dungeon if he wants a chance to join a boss raid in the following city. The boss inside this dungeon is Ard, and while it is possible to walk forward without fighting him here, the boss in the following city will not allow anyone to proceed unless it gets taken out. Because of it, Kaiser understands he has to prove that he is capable enough to join a proper guild. The company quickly reaches the door, and behind it, the fearsome Ard is waiting for them. The game panel plainly says that no more than 4 players are permitted to enter, and all of them must be under level 10, which suits their team completely. Kaiser asks the group whether everyone is ready, and Yubink instantly responds that she is totally prepared and has already gone through the strategy more than 10 times. The leader Shieldbest activates the quest, and everyone accepts it without hesitation. The gate opens, and they step into the habitat of the goblin warrior Ard, while Kaiser prepares himself to get back into combat, as it has been a long time since he last proved what he could do. Right suddenly, the big monster appears with a sick grin on his face. He carries a huge 20,000 hit points and lets out a snarl as he prepared to crush the gang of adventurers who tried to wake him up. Yubing gets shaken by how genuine everything feels, and cautiously asks if this is still just a game, or if she somehow got isekai'd into another realm. Kaiser urges at everyone to be sharp, as the boss charges right at them. Shieldbest eyes at Kaiser, and thinks that no matter how strong he might be, he cannot defend all of them at once. He instantly goes forward, raises his shield, and tells the others to move back as he braces himself to bear the full brunt of the boss's charge. He manages to shock the boss and advises everyone to take the chance and hit it with everything they have. Ard the goblin, however, swiftly recovers and comes in for a second attack. It swings its sword, but the tank manages to block it again with his shield while activating his protection trait, which enhances his defense and vitality as long as his party members stay behind him. Kaiser is shown flying around while calmly slashing through the goblin again and again. The goblin shouts and pulls back. Shield Best stares at the monster with a smirk, understanding that they might get through phase 1 without issue. Just then, Aim for the Head yells, informing him that the pattern is incoming. The shield cannot believe what he hears, since as far as he remembers, they would have to decrease the goblin's hit points to half to trigger that. However, he becomes frightened when he stares at the creature and learns that the criteria has already been met. Just then, our hero jumps in one again and chops through the goblin's hand. He keeps a smirk on his face and adds that he has already terminated the pattern. The story then moves to the past, where Kaiser is getting interviewed. The lady questions him what the secret to his party's success, as it has cleared bosses and dungeons that were quite difficult to tackle. Our hero answers casually that all they do is stick to what they are great at. The interviewer recalls the party composition, which has 4 roles, including tank, DPS, healer, and a support. She mentions that Kaiser's group seems to be lacking the tank role, and asks how raids are even feasible without it. Kaiser admits that tanks are a crucial part of any party, especially when it comes to interrupting the boss's rhythm. However, he then confesses and shocks the lady by revealing that he is the one who takes care of that role himself. Shifting back to the present, Ard is left howling in anguish after its pattern gets interrupted and its arm is cut. Shield Best cannot believe what he is seeing, because from what he understands, even tanks would struggle to stop a boss's pattern. Here, the team's attacker is pulling off a miracle, doing what he can't with a single strike. The goblin Ard comes in to attack again, but once more gets cut down by Kaiser with ease. The archer becomes thrilled and points out that the team's attacker is aiming only for the critical areas. By this stage, Kaiser has already interrupted another pattern, and the boss is now left with just under a quarter of its HP. Shield Best shouts at the team to prepare for the impending phase 2. The wizard and the archer get ready, as they are not willing to let Kaiser grab all the spotlight. The mutant goblin warrior then manifests its trait and enters a berserk state. Our child is already expecting this and recalls how every boss bears a different skill. He remembers that Ard of the Goblin has been given 2 attributes by the game, known as the 007 Bang. Its first attribute applies a debuff to the challenger's squad if it gets hit by physical damage 4 or more times. The second trait allows it to reflect magic damage if that is utilized 3 or more times. Apart from this, the berserk effect also reduces their speed by 4%. The archer complains about the debuff and argues that this boss keeps getting more broken with passing second, even though it has scarcely done anything in this conflict. Kaiser, on the other hand, stays unscathed by any of these debuffs. His trait allows him to avoid the berserk effect fully, which gets him delighted. While Shield Best is given orders to avoid assaults and focus on dodging for now, Kaiser has a different idea. He declares his aim to simply cut down the beast and charges forward. Ard slashes as if he actually stands a chance. And as expected, the MC is considerably too powerful and cuts through the monster, making it look way too easy. Meanwhile, the archer and the wizard still cannot comprehend why Kaiser is not impacted by the debuffs. Even Shield Best has given up on any idea of losing this battle. He glances at Kaiser in amazement and still doubts if he is actually the Kaiser from the legends. At this time, all 3 of them are just staring as Kaiser keeps swinging his sword at the goblin. Amidst the combat, our hero reaches level 10, and his swordsmanship competence climbs to level 7. Because of this, his damage with a sword improves by 7%. He charges toward the goblin for a finishing move and appears before it instantly, chopping it down through the center. With this, the gaming system informs them that the mutant goblin warrior Artie has been defeated and the dungeon is cleared. Instead of celebrating, Shield Best remains deep in his thoughts, attempting to figure out if the guy in front of them is indeed the famed Kaiser himself, and not just a poor imitation. Hearing this, the other 2 are also left shocked. The game system then tells them that they have broken the record and taken first position in the time limit rankings. The prizes are provided depending on contribution, and as expected, Kaiser takes the first spot in the team. He receives a red leader top, and a variety of other goblin goods, which he presumably will not utilize. Furthermore, he also obtains the title of the Kingdom of the Time Assault, which improves his speed stat by 10%. Kaiser stands there triumphantly, as he gets to shine once more. Looking at their system screens, everyone gets incredibly delighted by the god tier drops they just pulled. The archer and the mage start shouting our hero's praises, but he only smiles in return. Shieldest then speaks up with his tail between his legs, requesting him to look at the name on the ranking list. Since the tank was the leader, his name is coming up on the screen. He apologizes for not thinking of altering the name before they reach the dungeon. Kaiser catches on and realizes that having your name in the leaderboard, especially first place, must be a really huge issue. There is even a potential to gain welcomed into the top 10 guilds with such an achievement. Even though this is a beginning level dungeon, they still manage to grab the focus away from the top player, Annihilation. Coming back to the party, the tank apologizes again and offers to pay money to make up for that mistake. Our son just smiles and easily forgives them, as these sorts of things happen. The computer immediately registers the leader's name while entering the dungeon, and he never anticipated to get first place either. On the inside, he is glad, since being in the spotlight can be fairly taxing. After all, the most essential thing here is the prizes, the warrior set. Even though the grade can vary, it is one of the best goods you can acquire in this place. Since he really got portions of every grade, our hero thinks there is no way the ranking name can ruin his mood. Seeing the twisted smirk on Kaiser's face, the tank questions if this is really alright. Our hero just blows it off, advising them to take a chill pill. The group then starts sucking up to him for being so altruistic, only for the system to announce that the dungeon is about to close. Shieldbest mentions to his archer buddy that he originally thought the allegations regarding Kaiser were very exaggerated. However, now he thoroughly understands what sort of terrific person he truly is. Our lad realizes that the group is still standing there and asks if they want to stay in the dungeon. That jerks them out of their thoughts, and they promptly book it toward the portal. Returning to the hamlet, they make their way to the alchemist in the back alley. The group then enters the shop, only to be blown away by how different the establishment looks from the inside. Kaiser notices the hooded man standing behind the counter and believes that it must be Kalda, the alchemist. Seeing his awful mood, everyone starts having second thoughts about the quest. The alchemist starts roasting them, asking if they have given up, and reminds them that he still needs a lot of blood for his studies. Our son then slaps the vial of blood on the counter, which catches him entirely by surprise, considering it hasn't even been 40 minutes yet. Seeing the confident expression on the group, the alchemist starts blushing like a small girl. The system informs Kaiser that he has received some gold and a silver ring crafted by the guy. With that, the task gets done, and they can now all proceed to the main continent. Everyone starts cheering like wild, like if they just won the lotto or something. The screen suddenly flashes a new notification that Kaiser also got a unique present from Kalda. He stores it for later, and instead opens the low-grade talent ticket reward. The screen starts producing a peculiar glow, and cards float out, filling the room. Using his Eye of Truth ability, he discovers that majority of the cards are just average as heck. He then views the Charging Slash ability, the same one he utilized back in Demrock. Kaiser recalls that the ticket lottery delivers a random ability all the way from common to legendary. Just then, a notice pops up, indicating the system is about to shut down in a few seconds. That throws our hero completely off surprise. He utterly forgot about the time limit that prevents the user from being addicted to the game or starving himself to death. Kaiser cannot believe that 10 hours have already passed. Looking at the cards, he swiftly sorts through them while the machine begins the countdown. Just as he presses the screen, the system suddenly causes the game to shut down. Back in real life, he takes a few moments to understand what just transpired, then starts screaming in frustration like someone kicked him between the legs. The next morning, he calms down after having his beauty sleep and chooses to climb back inside the machine. As soon as he comes online, the first thing he does is open the system, recalling that he saw a golden glow. His mood dips as he discovers that the card wasn't a legendary grade and figures that his luck is fading down. His mind makes a double take when he sees that he instead acquired the backstab ability. This overwhelming skill is the reason why a majority of ranged fighters avoid throwing hands with assassins. No matter how hard they attempt to retain a distance, this skill allows the assassin to close the gap in a flash. Kaiser starts beaming like a lunatic when he realizes that he obtained the skill despite not being an assassin. If he receives a few more overpowered skills like this, he would become totally unstoppable. Just then, a wannabe hotshot walks by, laying it on thick to his girlfriend that he is a pro player. When the two notice the weird look on our boy's face, the couple freaks out and does a complete 180. Finally breaking out of Fantasyland, Kaiser chooses to put on the equipment he bought. Decked out with a new drip, he determines that it is time to head to the main continent. As the gateway appears, he recalls that he didn't even say goodbye to the group he was with. Although he was starting to feel at home with them, he believes that this must be fate and ultimately steps through. Dropping into lore mode, All the players who manage to make it out of R are glad to step into the mainland. Unlike that initial place, which is segregated into country-based servers, people from all over the world can meet here. The first beginning point of the quest is the city of Raven. As our boy makes his way inside the city, a couple of knights ride through the gate, dragging a criminal with them. The system informs him that new spaces and employment have now opened up, but his beginner protection has ended. Seeing the welcoming messages, Kaiser recognizes that the game is top tier for a reason. A nice fatso NPC approaches and gives him a complimentary beer on the house. Others also crop up, offering him free goods, which makes him get lost in thought. He suddenly manages to snap out of it, assuring himself that he can accomplish all this stuff later. Stretching his arms, he thinks of where he should go hunting now. Sometime later, he is busy mowing down monsters outside the city. The warrior beer offers him increased damage against goblins, as well as broken power bonuses. Using his rushing slash ability, he zips past the enemies, reducing them into mincemeat. What's more, with each enemy he defeats, his greatsword gets more powerful. The weapon was extremely overpowered to begin with, but the fact that it keeps growing stronger makes him super happy. Seeing his ability screen, he thinks that the next level isn't far off either. His Eye of Truth ability activates, and he detects a person lurking amid the bushes. The hidden thug begins drooling when he sees the warrior set and feels that he has found a jackpot. Not being able to wait any longer, he lunges ahead with his knife, only for Kaiser to easily deflect his strike. The disguise finally melts away, and our lad stares him down with a malevolent air. The man jumps back in fright and yells to his men to attack already. An archer suddenly throws arrows at Kaiser, but they get deflected like paper balls. Another person with an axe charges at him, only to find his strike parried like a weak commoner. Our boy then slashes through the thug's body, while the other two understand that they messed with the wrong guy. The cowardly assassin promptly rushes away, but doesn't go far, as Kaiser pops out in front of him, asking if the small infant lost his parents. Kaiser recalls how these player killers used to exist in the previous game as well. Mostly all the games would have these. Even the king of games, Sword Art Online, also used to have these lot of poor cowards who would steal from others, or just do it for the sake of gaining joy from murdering them. This game GoAS also has them, and our pro player knows them by the name of noob hunters instead of player killers, PK. The story goes back to the game, where our hero is standing in front of the chicken, who has merely wet his pants. The newbie PK is bewildered as to how a seemingly regular swordsman has utilized a backstab, which should belong to an assassin. But before he could figure out the secret behind this, the assassin boy gets slain himself. Kaiser also kills his comrades, who have ridiculous names like Not Your Mom. Instead of viewing Kaiser as a criminal and assigning him some form of consequence, the game's AI figures out that what he did was only in self-defense. However, after dealing with these novice killers, our hero is reminded of the good companions he had back in Arda. He then stores his things to avoid gaining additional attention from other player murders and heads to fulfill other objectives. In just no time, the guy manages to accomplish a bunch of quests and levels up to 17, unlocking the West Gate for him. Kaiser, being Kaiser, promptly gets through the gate and reaches the woodland west of Raven. On his journey here, he is even cautioned by the NPCs about how hazardous this hunting ground is, and that he must try to flee away if he finds himself near it. Our hero discovers that the oppressive atmosphere here comes from the dense woods and the gigantic insects crawling around, along with goblins scheming and preparing ambushes. From what he has learned, this location is extremely tough to handle, and players have created a rule for themselves that anyone entering should at least arrive with a party of 3. Because of this, the area in front of the West Gate is congested with people looking for others to complete their team, so they might stand a chance of surviving in this terrifying location. While some are searching for attackers and tanks, others are hunting for healers. Healers, however, are a class most people think is best avoided, considering how monotonous and extremely tough it is to raise them up. When Kaiser is going solo, people mock him for being a broke loser who couldn't get anyone to party with him. But our hero simply sighs in silent excitement. There, in the deep woods, he smoothly advances forward, chopping through goblins who are taken off guard by surprise strikes themselves. One goblin believes it's his lucky day and jumps in, but misses totally and gets squashed on the spot. Another archer goblin takes aim at the hapless boy, but Kaiser outsmarts him and throws his greatsword, severing the upper section of its body. When he loses his weapon, and therefore the effects from it, the goblins think they finally stand a chance. The famous child, however, has support as he rapidly equips an axe and uses backstabs to take them down with downward attacks. He quickly tackles the goblins one by one, and even boosts his axe mastery by a level. After he completes the goblin quest, he senses something approaching from behind, and finds a giant centipede moving in to fill its belly. The birds fly from the trees because of the sudden noise. Kaiser leaps into the air with the first centipede close behind him. He lets out a furious battle scream and swings his full body to deliver a big hit. The centipede receives tremendous damage and is sent flying, but in the very next moment, it springs back at him, apparently determined to seek revenge. Our hero reacts swiftly and manages to parry the onslaught. At the same moment, he generates a fighting axe in his left hand, while seeing how horrible the beast looks up close. A hefty swing from the axe chops off the centipede's mandibles, and 2 more hits from his sword are enough to ultimately bring him victory over the creature. Kaiser levels up, and his stat screen says that he has gone up by 2 levels. He mutters to himself that leveling up is no child's play, but so far it is going very well for him. Having cleared most of the available missions, his focus diverts to a normal one among the West Gate quests. It directs him to discover and retrieve a girl's missing pendant, so he gears up, since he already knows its whereabouts. On his journey there, he is met by other adventurers, all standing in line and waiting their turn. Kaiser immediately recognizes a tree as the spot where the pendant is intended to spawn. Meanwhile, in the background, people mutter and mumble about how long the line is and how much they have to wait. Among the whispers, he overhears a conversation concerning the execution order on the griefers. The men argue that the assassin certainly deserved it for acting recklessly, and one of them even indicates that the guy goes by the name Kaiser. Multiple alarms go off in our hero's thoughts as he recognizes something is awry. The men continue discussing, noting that our hero evidently used backstabbing, which doesn't entirely make sense to them. He thinks that nobody should believe such a far-fetched hypothesis, but the talk is enough to alert him to keep a low profile for a while. He recognizes that a swordsman employing assassin talents is unheard of, and possessing 6 qualities is extremely rarer. The guilds would never just sit silently and would strive to recruit him the instant they learn about him. Still, there are the psychopaths who would rather destroy such a unique talent, especially if they are senior guild members from Demrock. Their primary rule seems to be to obtain or destroy what is otherwise unreachable. He plucks the necklace from its perch in the tree and reminds himself that it is still too early for any rash moves. Back near the West Gate, Camilla glows with glee as she receives her jewelry and thanks our hero for doing her the favor. Kaiser earns 1 gold, some XP points, and a gift from Camilla. At the same time, he levels up to level 20 and wins a skill draw ticket as a reward. Camilla explains that the pendant is her most valued object. However, she is willing to offer it to Kaiser as a gift. Our hero thanks her and tells her not to lose it again. Camilla praises him once more, and as she smiles, our hero's max affinity ability activates, causing Camilla's affinity to significantly soar. The sudden spike surprises even Kaiser as he walks off, and he rationalizes that it must have gone up so much because she is a young girl. Without wasting a beat, he quickly thinks about conquering the next objective. It needs him to subdue the dungeon outside the West Gate, and because the reward is a draw ticket, he simply cannot miss the opportunity. At the same time, he remembers there are 2 dungeons outside the West Gate. One houses the goblin chiefs, and the other is an ant nest. Considering his warrior stats, he decides to go after the goblins. But even so, both dungeons require a tune to begin the mission. Our hero understands he cannot expose his real talents just yet, so he approaches the dungeon in an unassuming fashion. All of the adventurers scramble around, desperately searching for a level 20 wizard left and right. Meanwhile, the item collectors and weapon repairers add their own yells to the cacophony, making the whole area as busy as a packed marketplace. Our hero is startled to find production-type people assembled at the dungeon, seeing that thieves and headless optimists are the first to get rejected. At the same time, people swarm around wizards like ants, imploring them to join their gatherings. Our hero remembers that the hierarchy in the game is defined by the talents each character has versus the mob bosses, which makes mages almost deities in this dungeon. It also hits him that swordsmen are practically worthless here. But just then, someone cries out to him from behind. He turns to find a player encouraging him to join their crew if he is still alone. Kaiser checks if they realize he is simply a lowly swordsman, and they admit that they know all too well. They explain that they are only storming the dungeon for a mission, and just need another random member alongside them. Our hero feels suspicious, but decides to play along. He accepts, and the player sends him an invitation through the system panel. Just by glancing over their stats, it becomes evident to him that these folks know exactly who he is. Flashing back to a few minutes earlier, they observed him standing out like a sore thumb in the crowd, possibly thanks to that flashy red warrior armor suit. No rookies generally stroll around geared like that, which gave Bastard Sword a nasty idea matching his username. The party dives directly into the Goblin Chief's high-difficulty lair, depending on a couple of candles to barely light the dark passages. The dive kicks off when they drop the first red Goblin Scout without much difficulty. A system notification pops up, telling them that the chief is now aware of their presence. The party boss and tank act macho, flexing their high ranks. Our boy actually feels pleased by their clean coordination and strong harm output. Soon later, the Goblin commander sends forces to handle the intruding intruders. Out of nowhere, scores of brilliant red eyes flicker open in the darkness, and the walls quiver as a rush barrels toward them. Acting nice all of a sudden, the squad asks Kaiser if he wants to take the wave himself. They pledge to step in if anything goes south. The mage girl chimes in, stating it is the perfect moment to test their synergy. She says she will totally cover him if he's in danger. Kaiser sees red signs everywhere, yet he isn't a wimp who backs down. He charges directly into the goblin throng with a smooth charging slash, slashing through crimson necks like he is slicing practice dummies. The leader's suspicion is confirmed. Kaiser's seasoned fighting instincts scream veteran, implying he is the guy they have been chasing. The sleazy boss directs his tank to analyze the newcomer's skill set, to which the man calmly replies that they are clearly not second-rate. It is apparent Kaiser has good evading instincts, and targets crucial places quite swiftly for a great sword wielder. Even so, the guy states something about him doesn't add up. He says that the novice still is not at a level where a seasoned player like Assassin Boy 69 should have lost. Kaiser is quick for someone of his position, certainly, but assassins are a different breed entirely. With stealth and poison in their toolset, it is one of the most broken PvP classes, even winning 3 versus 1 fights without breaking a sweat. Tired with the overanalyzing, the magician girl begs them to relax already. Their eventual goal is to throw him in a ditch, so the details barely matter. Hearing that, the leader gives Tank the green signal to quietly set the plan in motion. The three cautiously close in from behind, pretending they are only come to provide backup. Meanwhile, Kaiser remained fully aware of everything around him, even while chopping goblins like firewood. His friends shower him with compliments, declaring they are convinced he could solo the entire dungeon with that swordsmanship. Our boy flashes them a big grin and casually adds that they are not too awful themselves. The tank keeps him buttering him up, informing the commander they have got themselves a hardcore player worthy of respect. Still, Kaiser is not the sort to get intoxicated on cheap flatter. In his mind, there were only 2 reasons they flung him into a monster swarm like that. They could have been using him as bait, hoping to seize his valuables after he died. But thus far, it seems they are not ready to pull the trigger. The leader suggests they should keep moving forward, not because of benevolence, but because he is waiting for the right moment when our hero will be easiest to delete. The party clears wave after wave of creatures, yet the mage girl somehow keeps missing her shots at him. The leader screams at her awful aim, and she shamelessly accuses the goblins for getting in her line of fire. The 3 fools are already out of breath, believing Kaiser is outrageously lucky. Meanwhile, he is clearly amazed at how awful her aim actually is, since he literally hands her clean holes. They have reached the boss room now, meaning this is their final opportunity. The enormous gate creaks open slowly as a strong aura flows forth. 2 elite goblin soldiers stride forward as the chief's personal security detail, ready to squash the intruders. The commander instructs Kaiser to handle them while they take care of something vital. To their horror, he is suddenly vanished from sight, and the elite soldiers start walking toward them instead. The tank exclaims that the sly little rat must have figured out their entire strategy. Pointing ahead, the mage girl screams at the foolish tank to focus on the enemy instead of panicking. Hearing that, the guys desperately hold back the goblins and yell at her to incinerate them before they get flattened. The girl begins casting flame, but quickly stops when a large boulder comes flying directly at her face. She barely dodges to the side. The small girl freezes when she sees the absolute unit who tossed it. The goblin chief with diabetes and a double chin to rival Donald Trump steps out with a yell that rocks the chamber. The tank turns back to her, asking how long she plans to stand there daydreaming. But the magician girl looks pale, like she has just glimpsed the angel of death. Kaiser introduces himself again, politely asking his pals if they happen to be close friends of Assassin Boy. Confused and cornered, she blurts out the truth, but reasons with him to at least help empty the dungeon before they settle anything personal. After all, completing a dungeon like this is practically difficult without a complete group. Kaiser nods and agrees that, logically speaking, she is completely accurate. She lets out a small breath of relief, thinking he had come to his senses. That is until a 2-foot blade plows into her chest, where her heart used to be. Kaiser makes it apparent he has 0 interest in the logical option. While the other 2 are still engaged battling with the elite goblin soldiers, Kaiser nonchalantly receives a reward notification for eliminating an evildoer. He is happy to see his arrangement paid off flawlessly. The instant the elite soldiers approached, he utilized backstab on a nearby body. The assassin skill allowed him to vanish in plain sight without anybody noticing. After that, he merely concealed and waited for the trio to get distracted in fight. The leader glances at him in bewilderment, thinking whether he has entirely lost his mind. Surely he doesn't truly plan to pull them down with him. Kaiser calmly tells him to guess his personal motto, annoying the guy who is not in the mood for riddles. He then pulls out a dagger he recently picked up and spells it out clearly. He does not work with backstabbing parasites. The leader's mouth drops when he recognizes the dagger. It belonged to Assassin Boy 69, but now it's in Kaiser's hands. Our boy smirks big, amused to observe that the guy recognizes his friend's equipment well. More than startled though, the leader is confused why a swordsman is equipping a dagger. A dagger in a greatsword user's hand is about as handy as a monkey with a screwdriver. Then the leader demands to know how Kaiser plans to solo the dungeon, after eliminating the only two people who could have aided him. The Goblin Chief's resistance to physical damage is unreasonably high. There is no way he can chip it down with that small dagger, no matter how long he swings. Kaiser, however, merely shrugs and claims his method is actually extremely straightforward. Status effects like hemorrhage do not count as physical damage, and that is his golden ticket to an easy win. The leader starts shouting at him, saying there is no way he alone can solo a high-rank boss. Grinning like he knows something they do not, Kaiser gently states he is not utilizing some cheap bleed effect. The following second, the leader watches him vanish, only to resurface a few feet ahead. Before he can even grasp what happened, his health plummets. The stat disparity between him and Kaiser is excessively enormous. The higher the stat disparity, the stronger his bleed grows. Both the elite soldier and the party head immediately start coughing up worrisome volumes of blood. Choking and enraged, the leader blames the foolish game design that punishes him just for having greater stats. It's not like the level differential is that big either. They're only 4 levels apart. For the bleed to impact this hard, there has to be another hidden aspect. Kaiser studies the aftermath of the skill he pulled off with quiet satisfaction. On paper, it was just an average level 20 gacha skill. What he did not expect, however, was the unique condition related to it. One that allows the effect to stack. Stacking status effects is not exactly common in most games, but Kaiser just happens to have the proper mix of skills and weaponry to double bleed's damage output. Completely unable to understand it, the party head calls hacks. With his last breath, he brands Kaiser a disgusting cheating bastard. Pretty ironic coming from a player killer low-key dubbed Bastard Sword. Seeing his captain collapse, the tank cries his friend's name in sheer panic. His look tells everything. He finally understands he picked a fight with the wrong fool, and now he is knee-deep in trash. The strategy was meant to be faultless. Instead, his colleagues are the ones laying cold on the dungeon floor. It hits him too late that they were never the hunters. Kaiser was leading them around from the very beginning, pulling their strings like puppets. By the time the tank understands he needs to run, it is already over. The heavily armored fighters fell like sacks of potatoes after a single clean slice from his dagger. He staggers back to his knees, despite the blood loss, but he barely survives a few more seconds before kicking the bucket. With that, our boy eliminates the scheming gamers along with the elite goblin army. The goblin chief, who has been silently watching from the sidelines this whole time, suddenly remembers he is also part of this conflict. Seeing his most loyal guards tumble, the boss lets out an angry shout. Kaiser exhales once, knowing he still has the irate fatty left to deal with. Since he's already here, he decides he might as well enjoy himself a little. The boss lunges down from above, aiming to flatten him with the weight of 100 cyber vehicles. It has not triggered its physical resistance yet, so a clean knee to the face sends the huge monster falling backward. Hurt and embarrassed, it engages selfish defense and decreases all incoming physical damage to virtually nothing. Without hesitating, Kaiser utilizes his thief talent again and slices at the boss from several sides. Just like before, blood bursts from the goblin chief like a hole in a water balloon. The creature rotates around with a furious stare, ticked off after watching half its health evaporate in a single attack. His eyes lock with Kaiser's, who has the murderous glare of a butcher calculating up which animal will be on the barbecue next. The chief's fury disappears instantaneously. With a frightened shriek, it turns and runs. For the first time in history, the boss escapes from its own combat. Our boy closes the gap utilizing backstab while the goblin stares back, thinking it fled. But when he swings its double chin back forward, he finds the executioner inches from its delicious neck, ready to create pig cutlets. The goblin chief cries in despair as he boards an express train to hell. The system informs him of his victory, and that he has leveled up too. He even gets the chief's smelly, sweaty belt, but is thrilled since he was hunting for one anyhow. Our hero thinks that he may have taken a rated slot here also. However, There wasn't a time restriction, so he just drops the matter. It does weigh on him a little, but he then concentrates on all the rich goodies here. Picking up the shield, he understands that the goons spent a fortune on their gear. Even the leader's weapon was top-notch material. Even if the individual lived true to his name, now he cannot harm anyone anymore. Just as he takes up a necklace to study, his Eye of Truth ability activates and notices something in the distance. At first he wonders if it is someone utilizing stealth, but the light appears too intense for that. When he walks near it, the system notifies him that he has uncovered a hidden dungeon. That catches him entirely by surprise. Dropping back into lore mode, dungeons are split into grades, and among them the most legendary and rarest are known as hidden dungeons. Even players with explorer classes nearly grow bald attempting to find them. The entrances are located in odd areas, and on top of that there are some rather weird, unique conditions to enter them. Coming back to our boy, he gets shocked by how absurd the conditions for this dungeon are. In a dungeon that ordinarily requires a party to clear, he has to uncover it while being solo. But then he tells himself that it wouldn't be worth it anyway. When he sees that the rewards for this hidden dungeon are hero grade, he becomes revved up that he will complete it no matter what. One of the veterans of this game, Freed, remarked that entering a hidden dungeon is like laying your head within a predator's maw. A lot of gamers agree with the premise that the moment you lower your guard around a beast, it will snap its jaws shut and crush your head. The concealed dungeon is like a predator in disguise, waiting for its prey to step into its open maw. Kaiser walks into the dungeon, only to be attacked by a debuff causing him tunnel vision. However, his hero feature then activates, dispelling the curse and restoring his 20/20 vision. The nasty welcome only gets him more revved up. A goblin in a hood then speaks up, calling him brave for approaching his lair without any fear. Getting face to face, Kaiser sees all the horrible undead goblins and spiders and quickly gets frightened out. Seeing his reaction, the shaman goblin feels more confidence and starts laughing like a lunatic. However, our boy is startled that he is a named boss. Even though this is a high-level dungeon, a named boss is still leagues above. He then recalls the benefits he obtained for defeating the dragon and starts drooling over what he will get this time. The goblin then starts monologuing, asking how the hell the human discovered this area. He can tell Kaiser is not an explorer and even recognizes that he has numerous different auras mingled into him. It pleasantly surprised our hero that the goblin is smarter than he looks. The shaman suddenly gets serious and declares that Kaiser will not leave this area alive. With that, he unleashes his zombie army, but our boy merely stands there and fires back that he will give the monster a lesson. Activating his backstab ability, he advises the shaman that a ranged fighter should always be wary while throwing hands with a melee fighter. He then teleports behind the shaman, but the monster is prepared as he just yeets one of his undead warriors at him, causing it to explode. However, the smile on the shaman's face soon vanishes when our lad draws an Itachi and appears behind him again. Seeing the knife in his hands, the shaman understands that he has been cut. Kaiser taunts him, reminding the goblin that he has told him to keep cautious. The goblin necromancer then gets serious as he levitates more of his soldiers and sends them flying toward our boy. Meanwhile, our hero simply dodges the monster rockets, since he can readily predict the route of the attack and what the piece of garbage is plotting ahead. At that moment, Kaiser gets driven against a wall. The shaman starts celebrating, declaring that this is the end and causes more of his undead soldiers to burst. The black shaman clicks its tongue, apparently sad it did not get the chance to acquire such an interesting test subject in one piece. Jihad blames him for being careless and arrogant. That smug confidence disappears swiftly when the man it imagined was dead suddenly throws an arm around it from behind. He doesn't stop there. He leans in and reminds the shaman that it cannot use any more skills. Deciding to enjoy this a bit, he puts the dagger away and starts pounding Jihad with his own hands instead of finishing it. One powerful strike sends the scrawny shaman flying, its back crashing hard against the wall. The creature groans, apparently never having faced this kind of mistreatment before. Standing over it with a stern and unrelenting glare, Kaiser makes it plain who the actual boss in this area is. Jihad clings to what little pride it has left, murmuring that it will one day take retribution for this disgrace. Kaiser reacts with a crisp punch to the liver, knocking the pride right out of it. He follows up with a quick torrent of punches until the shaman wheezes and actually requests for a tiny timeout. The hideous beast then has the gall to lecture him, arguing violence that fractures bones like this should be prohibited. Thus what he is doing is extremely wrong. Kaiser merely stares at it, attempting to grasp what kind of screenplay this boss was created with. This coward does not match the vision of a heroic grain special dungeon boss he expected. Aside from that previous corpse explosion that may one-shot top explorers, the Black Goblin Shaman feels uninspiring. While Kaiser is caught in meditation for a second, the shaman discreetly fixes its shattered bones. Then it glides backward, creating distance and leaving him blinking in amazement. Jihad's confidence returns rapidly, stating that withdrawal was a deliberate ploy to drop his defense. A wicked grin spreads across its face, as black fog, produced from the shaman's particular characteristic, begins to devour the land around them. Kaiser receives a system warning that the characteristic momentarily enhances the boss's rank. He is not too concerned. In his opinion, a heroic rank loser rating up is still a loser. That said, he is not going to stand around and let a metamorphosis finish, especially as heroic plus monsters normally require whole raid teams to knock down. So he moves in at full speed, wanting to terminate this before it escalates further. Before the fight, he pumped every last stat point into strength, pushing it above 100. On top of that, the warrior outfit gives additional damage against goblin-type creatures, with an extra boost versus bosses. Jihad Black might be tough, but raw damage like this does not care about durability. He swings the greatsword down in one decisive blow, and the blade cleaves the goblin shaman straight in half. Just like that, the secret dungeon is cleared and documented in his adventurer's tome. As the first adventurer to conquer it, he obtains heroic grade prizes. Finally, some decent stuff, like the shaman's robe and an orb carrying its soul. Then he sees a curious object titled Trace of a Forgotten Clan, with no grade attached. Even the description is ambiguous, reminding him of the unexplained drop items like the ones back in Demrock. Putting that aside, he moves on to the ultimate reward. At first sight, he figures the unnamed monster card offers a stat boost or some enchantment, but when he clicks on it, it shows a heroic grade Guardian card that summons the Goblin Shaman itself to defend the user. Kaiser's enthusiasm diminishes swiftly. He is not delighted about having an ugly goblin trailing him about. He had something cooler in mind, like the dragon or tiger guardians his former comrades flexed. Still, he decides to test it instead of judging too hastily. Instead of Jihad Black the Dark Shaman, what appears is the Jihad Black Pokemon Collector Edition. The little plush replica blinks in astonishment, peering up at the same human it had tried to kill, although now, Kaiser towers above it. Kaiser facepalms at the small clown that is purportedly his guardian. The least the devs could have done was make it appear frightening. Baby Black sinks to the floor in apparent misery, appalled by the mere concept of serving a nasty human. Its described qualities aren't that promising either, with Bully the Weak and Opportunist ranking at the top. The Guardian starts off with very little loyalty, which makes the unpleasant little gremlin feel more like a punishment than a reward. To make things worse, the system even informs him that the small traitor will not hesitate to stab him in the back if the opportunity appears. One peek at Jihad's smug little face tells Kaiser he absolutely cannot let this monster wander about freely. Our boy carefully steps toward the miniature Guardian. Watching the towering human approach with evident intent, the small rascal questions what a dirty human wants to do with someone of his greatness. Kaiser merely blinks. The arrogance of this ugly Pokemon, calling its master filthy, is almost remarkable. Jihad immediately falls silent, understanding it may have crossed a boundary. Deciding the brain-dead shaman demands rapid correction, Kaiser introduces it to the true meaning of the word master during a highly hands-on training session. Soon, the sharp sounds of focused schooling reverberate across the cave, and Jihad's loyalty points steadily begin to grow, one painful lesson at a time. After that long gaming session, our protagonist finally creeps out of his man cave. He peeks out the window, astonished the sun is already setting, and he is ravenous. Like any serious gamer, he walks downstairs to ask his mom if there is anything left for him. Instead, he discovers his sister reclining on the couch, nonchalantly eating on the final bag of chips. He has an inclination to brand her a loser, but as a fellow no-life, he chooses peace. Dropping onto the couch alongside her, he asks what she is watching. He nearly chokes when she adds she also plays Goss. Apparently, it's so hot everyone plays it today, and she is already level 71. Do-hyun's brain short-circuits at that revelation, because that means she must have been playing for eons, only not really. She attained that level in 6 months, because some pal carried her the entire way. Curious, he asks if it genuinely takes that long to achieve level 70 on your own. Ruthless as ever, she snaps back that progress slows down when you occasionally touch grass instead of living in a gaming pod 10 hours a day. Bro cannot determine whether to take it as an insult or a praise. Right then, the webcast flips to a news segment on the Hero Guild. His sister gushes that it is the #1 guild among gamers her age, even rivaling Milesaw in popularity. That makes zero sense to him, since the guild does not even crack the top 10 leaderboards. The 10 out of 10 guildmaster shows on screen. She enlightens him that the Hero Guild's fame has nothing to do with achievements. The men are just incredibly hot. While she almost drools over Guildmaster Verza, proclaiming it the best guild for girls, Do-hyun squints at the television. Aside from the guy's typical K-pop e-boy appearance, he doesn't see the excitement. His sister says the man is attractive and cool, 2 words no girl would ever utter to her brother. Irritated, Dohyun feels it is bold talk coming from a solid 6 whose main talent is lazing on the couch all evening. She adds that her guild's YouTube channel is blowing up due to Verza's aura. Dohyun stares at her perplexed, but she enlightens him that practically every guild streams on YouTube to acquire viewers. The big ones typically pull in millions. That really blows his head, because that indicates they are undoubtedly raking in some major cash. She casually confirms that the guy probably earns $1 billion a month, only from YouTube. Hearing that, Dohyun's head goes utterly numb as he calculates how many KFC buckets he could buy with that kind of money. Feeling utterly defeated by the pretty boy, he slumps back to his bed and logs in again to avoid reality. This time he chooses to videotape his games, hoping to obtain some banger clips for himself. Jihad wakes up too, enthusiastically shouting good morning to his owner. Dohyun's gaze reminds the young goblin of the hands-on schooling he missed and to add correct honorifics when addressing him. Jihad starts sweating, but Dohyun decides to cut the shaman some slack. He tosses the robe to him so he has something to wear, as he can't put it on himself at the moment anyhow. Instead of showing gratitude, the little rascal loses loyalty and starts hatching up plots to knife him to achieve freedom. One minor memory of prior anguish, however, swiftly remedies that, and Jihad shows proper gratitude for his master's care. He then asks what their game plan is. He tells him they have a lot to get done. They travel to another place in the lair, where he ruthlessly slaughters all the goblins. Jihad can't help but feel a little empathy for them. After cleaning up, he instructs him to try something new. He directs the shaman to discard all the loot he's carrying and attempt to resurrect the goblins he just slayed. The shaman sets everything aside and casts a spell that appears way too serious for his silly little face. Surprisingly, it works, and a red goblin rises from the dirt. Jihad repeats it 2 more times and verifies that this is the maximum of his army in his current state. Even so, the thought of creating an undead army piques his interest because it makes the shaman considerably more useful than he expected. Without waiting for permission, the shaman starts directing his resurrected subjects around, utterly ignoring his lord. When he wonders what they're doing, Jihad cheerfully explains that he doesn't need to carry all the loot with them around. The little brat, instantly pressing labor tasks as soon as he unlocks slaves, gets on his nerves. He tells Jihad that he plans on harvesting elite monsters once he gets level 2. Jihad surprises him, nonchalantly saying that he already knows where all the elites assemble. Apparently, they are so indolent that they just camp in one area most of the time. Hearing that, our son grins wide since he just acquired a truly excellent idea. After hearing that elite mobs are stupid enough to assemble up in one spot, Kaiser formulated a strategy. With the help of Jihad, he navigated the woods and identified the appropriate hunting spot. They discovered a camp of beasts resembling goblins, but a bit more humanoid. Jihad confirmed with his master if this was what they were looking for. A crazed smile came up Kaiser's face at the sight of the camp. Finding this campsite prompted the unexpected quest, Trial of the Warriors. Clearing the quest could gain him 100 gold, some skill experience, and 1 intermediate skill draw ticket. If there are gacha tickets involved, you know this dude will work his ass off to get them. Without wasting another second from the 48-hour time limit, he rushed the encampment, alerting the elite gangs to his existence. There was no need to be all covert. He'll just go balls to the wall. To the elite mob's credit, they didn't flinch and instantly raised their weapons. He sidestepped the first strike with great timing. Using his angular momentum, Kaiser attacked from above. With his big sword still sheathed, he utilized his knee to land a deadly blow on the monster's ugly-ass face. He smashed a lot of teeth and damaged the poor mob's nose. Without glancing back, Kaiser's attention moved to the remainder of the camp. This time, he flawlessly summoned his looted dagger out of his inventory. With a single application of vital thrust, he ripped apart the vitals of 3 beasts in fast succession. The attacks that didn't cause deadly damage left a severe bleeding state condition. In just a few seconds, he reduced the elite mob camp to just a single desperate creature. Testing his stacking strength against the monster's sword skill, Kaiser blocked with his dagger. The beast was caught aback when a full swing was halted by a tiny weapon. Left wide open, he gave that monster a hard kick to the gut, knocking the air out of the poor guy's lungs. To cap off his surprise ambush, he grasped for his main weapon. He swung the red big sword to the maximum and made the beast shout its final war cry. Kaiser chopped the poor son of a gun in half without a trace of resistance. From his initial charge to the final kill, he barely took a few seconds to smear the camp with blood and do the job. Jihad watched from a safe distance as his mad master mowed down an elite mob troop without breaking a sweat. He felt how fearsome this man could be out in the western wilderness. He cannot be termed human. It would be far more fitting to term this man a monster, the devil incarnate himself. Kaiser planted his blade to the earth and expanded his senses outwards. Now that the warriors are out of the picture, the next threat should show up any minute now. As expected, the hidden field boss, Goblin Great Warrior Karuk, came running out of the trees. His abrupt goal naturally chained into an exalted one, the trial of the mighty warrior. Karuk is a named elite hidden field boss, a formidable fighter with physical enhancement and berserker skills. A regular player would have peed their pants in fear of this mob, but all Kaiser could see was a walking loot bag. He took his big sword and went on to meet the hidden field boss midway through. Jihad tried to warn him that soloing a field monster of this kind could be a bit too much, but his master didn't listen. Karuk's cold battle axe was imbued with a vicious stroke. The moment they touch blades, his huge sword shall break. Taking this piece of information into account, Kaiser avoided a direct clash with a frightening display of sword expertise. Karuk was left bewildered and confused because he didn't get to finish the fight in one blow. Similarly, Jihad was perplexed. A mere second before the battle axe could shatter his weapon, Kaiser played with his great sword's angle and avoided losing critical equipment. He lifted his head and gave the enormous goblin a teasing stare. It was really effective. Karuk held the axe above his head, eager for round two. In a much closer range, Kaiser swept away all the momentum from the goblin's icy weapon. They continued brawling it out without employing any fancy dance and movement. They merely stood still and pummeled each other blow for blow. Jihad had never seen anything like it in his 100-year existence. Kaiser wasn't getting sliced up or blasted away owing to his superb usage of parry. He was effortlessly dissolving any strike before they could cause harm with pure expertise. As you might know, parrying an attack is a powerful yet risky play. If the timing is just a bit off, it will fail. It's one of the very few defensive skills that a swordsman can deploy. Most players use it to inhibit predictable typical mobs. If the conditions are favorable and the user is competent enough, a simple parry can nullify legendary skills. Due to its terrible success rate and intricacy to use, practically no swordsman uses it in real battle. Kaiser luckily acquired this high-risk, high-reward skill out of a low-tier gacha draw. Once the cooldown for Ruthless Strike was up, Karuk executed another one of his game-changing swings. This time, Kaiser let the field boss strike nothing but dirt, and quickly teleported behind the dumb goblin. By the time Karuk saw him heading for his flank, Kaiser was already rejoicing with a shit-eating smile. Jihad watched as his master swiftly sliced down a boss that should have taken 3 players to hunt effectively. In an act of ultimate destruction, a complete crescent swing beheaded the enormous beast. The hidden field boss, Goblin Great Warrior Karuk, had been eliminated. Kaiser completed the trial of the Great Warrior, and the achievement was recorded in his adventure log. He was rewarded with 200 gold, a big quantity of XP, and 2 intermediate skill draw tickets. Kaiser couldn't give a rat's ass about the other awards. His eyes were immediately pulled to the gacha tickets. He celebrated like a caveman who had just discovered fire. Every time he witnessed his master executing that caveman dance, Jihad couldn't help but feel ashamed. When this man is in the middle of a conflict, he acts like a demon, murdering everything in his way. But the instant it's time for his card draw, he turns into the dumbest-looking guy in the world. Such is the life of a gambling addict. He instantly pulled up the tickets and pressed the use button in record speed. Dopamine filled his thoughts as a variety of possible skills spread before his eyes. The first card awarded him a rare martial arts skill, the Rising Dragon Kick. The second one pulled an uncommon skill from the buffer class, called Striking. This buffer skill pull was tremendous. Striking is a core ability for buffering. It has a 40-second duration and a 40-second cooldown, giving it a 100% uptime of plus 40 physical attack. It virtually turns a standard sword of the same level into something that hits like a great sword, without downsides. He truly hit the jackpot today. This skill suited him so completely that he could cry. A DPS that can buff himself is a wet dream for solo play. The Soaring Dragon Kick was just the icing on the cake. He always wanted to gain the skill, owing to the simple fact that it looks nice as fuck. In addition, the hidden field monster dropped Karuk's red leather top and red leather bottom, both hero-grade clothing. He even received Karuk's rare plus red and blue leather shoulders, and Karuk's essence ring, a hero-grade accessory. Kaiser may finally graduate out of his awful goblin set for a huge improvement. He equipped Karuk's full reed and blue Great Warrior gear. The set options include a 10% boost in slam attack range, a 6.5% increase in melee damage, and a +4 on all stats. Wearing a 2-tone colored full set was definitely a visual enhancement. Jihad paid his master a praise and stated that Kaiser may be pretty intimidating at times. He regarded his servant's terror as yet another flattery. Sometimes he shocks himself with how goated he is. Seeing Kaiser basked in his egotistic glory, Jihad forgoes any opportunity of having a serious talk with the man. His gloating was interrupted by a message that the small goblin's devotion had reduced by 1 point. Knowing that the little bastard just insulted him unconsciously, Kaiser flashed his bastard sword at the small fella and admonished Jihad not to go out of line if he wanted to continue surviving. Thankfully, terror proved an extremely powerful enhancer of devotion when it comes to Jihad. With his aim fulfilled, there's nothing else to do in this dismal woodland. It's time to dip. Even though he recently destroyed a secret field monster, Mr. Rank 1 was still anxious to hunt another sack of loot. He already scored 1, might as well keep the kill streak going. But to continue to the next city, Kaiser must pass the continent's challenge first. Coincidentally, the trial is a field boss quest to battle Spider Queen Eliza and gain level 24. The so-called Spider Queen spawns in the Western Forest. Like all other field bosses, the entrance to her lair is continuously packed with players trying their luck. Currently, there's a decent amount of people gathered for the next spawn in approximately 10 minutes. They've heard that the last spawn point was the Eastern Web. There's a probability that the Queen will repeat the same trend. There's no telling for sure. The boss could appear from the west or the north for all anyone knows. Just in time before the fight for the Queen, Kaiser reached the web-covered lair. He asked his bald-ass goblin if he knew the particular spawn place. Jihad termed the Spider Queen a new generation monster, so he doesn't actually know her that well. Kaiser was a bit bummed. He thought the tiny guy knew the jungle in and out. Ultimately, Kaiser was locked in the same guessing game as the other contestants. Wherever she might spawn, he could always just use backstab to close the gap. Thankfully, his Slayer trait triggered and provided him an unfair advantage over everyone else. The attribute actually disclosed the Spider Queen Eliza's spawn point in his memory. It was a welcome surprise, but also a little unsettling. As far as he knows, he didn't acquire the Slayer title for Spider-type monsters. Could it be that Slayer applies to bosses he has yet to kill? Then, the trait must be ridiculously broken. He'll need to test it out a few more times in the future. The only thing that matters right now is the field boss he's about to butcher. At the moment, his equipment is tailor-made to monopolize as many field bosses as possible. Once the 10-minute spawn timer was out, Kaiser fled, leaving the rest of the players in the dust. He transported himself exactly behind the hairy dump truck of Spider Queen Eliza. With no other player in the neighborhood of the dark underground cave, he'll have plenty of space to let go. The combination of his Slayer trait and backstab was simply too effective. Jihad was transported alongside him. The tiny fella continues to be surprised by all his master's pranks. Standing before Spider Queen Eliza, who had just been alerted to his arrival, Harry was shocked by the field boss's sheer size. The enormous spider yelled her name like a Pokemon as she charged at the lone gamer. Feeling out his opponent, Kaiser raced back out of her way. Once he created enough spacing, he utilized backstab and vanished into thin air. The Spider Queen was a tad too late in turning around to defend herself. Kaiser has found the perfect practice partner for his new Ascending Dragon kick. The damage was increased by his set option effect, causing 6% extra damage. More significantly, he was right. It simply looked cool as hell. He delivered an excessive level of damage that made all of Eliza's eyeballs weep in misery. Get this dude a blindfold and call him Lee Sin. That single kick inflicted damage equivalent to an ultimate skill. It sent the Spider Queen barreling into the cave, tumbling face first into the soil. Refusing to let up, Kaiser pulled his bastard sword and surged forth. Eliza had taken quite an amount of harm, and she was finding it hard to recover. Immobile due to the first injuries, she just stood there, while Kaiser sliced her up into pieces like raw meat. Without a death notification, he did not stop the one-sided assault, pushing his speed up to another level. Kaiser used his striking skill to increase his strike power by a staggering amount. The boost in strength was noticeable. His presence felt heavier and more frightening. Every remnant of the Spider Queen's rage was changed into terror, as she felt a familiar force growing within her assailant. Kaiser summoned an even bigger and fiercer dragon construct with the activation of the Ascending Dragon kick. He slammed his foot against her head to turn the big monster's brain into mush. Eliza brought up some terrible bile as all prospects of survival fled. The force behind his foot shook the ground and the cavern system as a whole. Jihad crouched behind a rock from a safe distance. He felt terrible for the demons his master met today. On her last legs, the Spider Queen glanced up at Kaiser with begging eyes. He's starting to grow annoyed by the spider's continuous calling of the name Eliza, like a broken record. Now that the struggle is virtually finished, his cruel tendencies took over. He put away his weapons to do some bare-fisting. She might not comprehend human English, but the Spider Queen could tell that she's in for a world of suffering. Jihad listened to the sound of bare fists slamming against the monster's flesh. His master's harshness brought him PTSD. He was not a stranger to getting beaten by those hands. Kaiser's hands shot up a dozen punches per second, steadily whittling away the spider's HP. Hearing her continually scream the name Eliza, Jihad's memory was sparked. He had heard of that name before. Upon awareness, he hurried to the battlefield and cautiously implored his lord to halt the pounding. He risked being subjected to Kaiser's anger and urged the man to halt the punches. Kaiser wasn't a soulless monster. He heard his goblin's summons and stepped aside. Jihad hurried over to Eliza with weeping eyes as he tried to get her to open her eyes. With hardly enough power to stare at the young goblin, the Spider Queen had a hard time identifying Jihad. He pulled down his cloak to show her his bald-ass head to make her recall. As soon as she recognized who was in front of her, tears of relief flooded over the gigantic spider. These two employers have a history that dates back to 150 years ago. She was simply a lovely and small spiderling back then. She always had the tendency of saying her name, Eliza. Jihad had never seen a species of spider that met her description before. On a whim, he requested the spider to join along on his excursions, and she easily consented. Eliza had been there for him through long evenings of research and testing. Jihad felt Eliza sound kind of bland, so he added an E at the start of her name. Eliza was very thrilled to receive a new moniker from her new goblin companion. Initially, she struggled to pronounce her full name, but Jihad elected to keep calling her Eliza from then on. One day, he had to depart to go somewhere unsuitable for a helpless, tiny spider. The situation was dangerous for him, let alone for his small pal. Before departing, he vowed to be back in no time. She calmly waited for her friend, never moving from where he left her. Eliza stayed still for God knows how long, but her companion never returned. The days went and the moon dwindled. From daybreak until moonfall, she continued. A year passed and she waited. A decade went by and she waited. 100 years flew by and she still waited. Eliza kept waiting for the day that would never arrive, a promise that would never be fulfilled. The cottage she had called home soon grew weary from the passage of time. It soon collapsed, and young Eliza was compelled to head towards the western woodland. After more than a century of doing nothing but waiting, she steeled her will and traveled to the site where she first met her companion. She kept on repeating the name Jihad gave her, so she would never forget. 150 years later, Jihad and tiny Eliza have finally reunited. Their sizes have reversed, but the feelings and memories remain. After hearing out the goblin's background, all Kaiser heard was that Jihad was a piece of trash who abandoned Eliza. The bald-ass goblin lifted his head to look at his master momentarily, then kept grieving for his long-lost comrade. This reunion presents a simple question. Jihad was gone not for 1 or 2 years, he was out of the picture for a century and a half. Why was that? Jihad genuinely cannot say the reason. It is currently beyond his ability to share. Kaiser wasn't particularly satisfied with his imprecise response. Still, all the small goblin could do was apologize for not being able to share some secrets. Seeing Jihad's earnestness, the master didn't push him anymore. Now that he had heard the dismal narrative of the Spider Queen, Kaiser didn't know how to proceed. His graduation mission was to kill Eliza. He can't merely skip a mandatory mission and impede his advancement. Thankfully, it sounds like Eliza has a method to help. She animatedly relayed all she knew to Jihad in monster speech. Upon hearing her concept, Jihad refused to entertain the idea. Kaiser wanted to know what the two were talking about, and Jihad unwillingly interpreted. In essence, the Spider Queen told Jihad that the human should just stab her.